So, good evening and welcome to another Facebook Live. This is all about sleep, what we need to do to get good sleep and why we need good sleep. So, I talk a lot about sleep. I talk a lot about sleep with my clients, and I talk to generally people about sleep because it's incredibly important in how we are able to cope with life. So, I hope you take some of this on board because it's one of those frustrating things for me that people just don't take on board. So I'm going to give you the facts and the research. I want to give you the guidance on what is the literature which is proven to help you sleep better, and hopefully that'll work for you. So I'm Rick Cardwell Counselling. If you need any advice or guidance, go to my Facebook page. You can drop me a message. You can give me some comments or some thumbs up, thumbs down. I think I've also left a link on this video if you want to arrange for a free chat, talk through your needs, anything that you may need to do, anything counselling related. So let's just have a look at sleep. So I'm going to talk about sleep in a general way, about getting good sleep and what it is. Now, what I am going to say is we should all pretty much be able to get at least reasonably good sleep most of the time, even if we're going through some sort of stress and anxiety. However, if you have got young babies or you've got circumstances where you're going to be woken up in the night, that's kind of out of the framework of what I'm talking about. And we have to accept that for those of us that have had kids or having kids or got kids, we have to accept that we're going to get sleepless nights, full stop. So that aside, what I want to talk about is the importance of sleep and why it is important, and also my frustrations about sleep and why people don't take it on. So this is all research stuff. It's not my opinion. It's very good research. There's thousands of research centres around the globe that give really good information. And I always find it interesting, sleep. I must admit, I always sleep very well, even if I've got a crisis on, and I have crises like everybody else, but I tend to wake up just a little bit earlier, but I still sleep quite well through the night, even when I've got things on that necessarily might be a bit of a problem for me. So when we think about sleep, about 21% of people in the West suffer from a chronic sleep disorder, okay? And in the USA, sleep disorders are officially a public health epidemic. So sleep is a real problem. We're actually sleeping about an hour and a half less than we were 50 years ago. And we think of sleep as something that we don't do well with sleep because of our external circumstances, things that are out of our control, and they affect the way that we sleep, which is very, very true. But research shows that 70%, 7 out of 10 people, are sleep deprived. Now, this is double the statistics from about 50 years ago, maybe 60 years ago, where this research was done. And that is because, obviously, the world is moving much quicker now. We're running to keep up, and so we're sleeping less. Now, one of the things about sleep, which a lot of people which everybody should understand really, is that you cannot catch up on sleep. Now, people say, oh, well, I'll have late nights in the week and I'll sleep at weekend and catch up on my sleep there. It really doesn't work like that. Our biology, our physiology is not designed to catch up on sleep if we lose out on sleep. If we lose a sleep one night, or we don't sleep well for a number of nights, that is sleep lost. You can't catch up at the weekend. You can't do anything to get that sleep back. Over time, you can get your awareness back. You can catch up with feeling less tired. But once sleep is lost, it is lost. There is no catching up on sleep because of what it does to our brain and our physiology. So it affects all ages sleep, and the research shows that kids sleep today about 2 hours less per night than they did 100 years ago, and adults sleep about an hour and a half less than 50 years ago. Now, that isn't an evolutionary process. That's a social process. So what that means is we sleep less because of the way that our society has changed over the last 50 years. It's not something that we've evolved to do. It's something that actually we've created ourselves. So there's a lot of good evidence to show what happens in the brain and how it helps us when we sleep. But there's still a question over sleep about why we actually need to sleep and why the things that happen in sleep can't actually happen when we're awake. So sleep's very important. We sleep for a third of our life. And when your body's telling you to sleep for a third of your life, it's saying that it's really important and we're doing it for a reason. Okay, so we know that when we don't sleep, we don't feel good. And, you know, like a tired toddler, a 2-year-old is going to play up. Well, we do exactly the same as adults. We play up as adults. And what that means is we're likely to, if we're tired, we're likely to take more risks. We're likely to make rash decisions. And also, lack of sleep is a drain on our capacity for empathy. So that what that means is when we're tired, we just don't care as much as what we do when we're refreshed. That's quite a painful thing, really, to think that we don't care when we're tired. But those are real facts and real statistics. It makes us also more sensitive to our own pain and our own suffering when we're tired. We become less likely to be able to relate to others when we're sleep deprived. And it makes us more selfish in that we tend to just withdraw and think about our own suffering and our own needs, because of that tiredness causes us to focus on our own resources of what we've got left. So without boring you with lots of detail about sleep cycles and the stages of sleep, I'll just summarize that so you know, and that's important that you know. So when we fall asleep, we go through 4 cycles of sleep, ironically labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we have REM sleep. And stage 3 and 4 are your deep sleep cycles, and your REM is your rapid eye movement, where the dreaming takes place. Those stages, the deep sleep stages and the REM stage, are important because we know that physiologically and neurologically things happen that help us keep us alive and help us stay stress-free. So stage 4 is the second stage of deep sleep, where we've got slower delta brain waves. And what happens there is it's a restorative sleep process for the body. The body helps to heal itself, the temperature drops, our arteries open, and lots of good stuff goes on to physiologically heal our body, which is why we need to get to those deep levels of sleep. And it's also a stage where memory consolidation takes place. So what we learn goes into the conscious brain, and in deep sleep, it starts to be processed so that if it's important information that we've used regularly, then in REM sleep, that will be transferred to our unconscious brain, where we hold that information. So if we're not getting deep sleep at stage 4, then we're not going to remember things as well as we should. So think about a student taking exams, staying up late, not sleeping properly. They're not going to do as well in their exams because that memory process isn't happening. So that's why it's really important, if you've got, say, studies to do, other things to do that require you to remember a lot of stuff. Okay, so when we go through the 4 stages of sleep, we hit REM, and what that means is rapid eye movement sleep, and that's where our brain is restored. There's lots of restoration processes that take place in the brain in this rapid eye movement sleep, where we have this dreaming process. Information is taken from our short-term memory into our long-term memory, and the brain is very active. It's as active as if we were in the day at any time in this state. But what's important is all sleep researchers agree, and this is very important, I want you to remember this, that rapid eye movement is crucial for good mental health and functioning. Okay, rapid eye movement, REM, that deep dream state. It's very, very important that we get to that state. So studies show that there's a link between not enough sleep and things like high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, neurological diseases, psychiatric illness, and obesity. So good sleep keeps you healthy, and it also helps you to avoid a lot of medical disorders. Obviously, there's external factors associated with all of those diseases as well. But not having good sleep accelerates those processes to bring them on or magnify them quicker. So it's important to remember, and remember this as well, sleep boosts your immune system. Without good sleep, the immune system lowers and it becomes inefficient. Not inefficient, but not as efficient as it should be. And interestingly, if you don't sleep too well 2 or 3 nights before you have a flu vaccine, and then you have a flu vaccine, it's likely to only produce about 50% of the antibodies that it would do if you'd slept well. And 50% of the antibodies for a flu vaccine is pretty ineffective. So think about the quality of your sleep if you're going to get a flu jab. If you've not slept well, it's kind of not all that relevant. The flu jab may be just not work. So that's how important sleep is. Okay, so that's the importance of sleep in a nutshell. We need it. It's important for our physical and neurological health. Full stop. So what can we do to get better sleep? Okay, so there's a number of things, and I'm going to touch on some of the, well, 3 or 4 of the important ones, in the hope that you'll at least pick up on one of them, and hopefully the last one as the most important one. So exercise is really important. If you exercise 3 or 4 times a week, then that is really good for helping you sleep. Ideally, either in the morning or early afternoon, but not any later than that. Now, when it comes to sleep, it's important as to how much sleep that you get. So when we think about sleep, it's important that we regulate our sleeping hours 7 days a week, ideally. Because what this does is this anchors our sleep and it improves the quantity and quality of sleep that we get, because we're consistently doing it at the same time for 7 to 9 hours. That's what's recommended. And if we try and do that religiously at the same time, and that also means working out your chronotype and other things which we won't go into now, but ideally find out the best time for you to go to sleep and the best time for you to wake up every morning, and stick to that routine. You're going to bed early and late and all over the place, you'll not get into a routine and your body won't adjust. So routine: sleep at the same time every night, wake up at the same time every morning, 7 days a week. Okay. Sleeping pills. Okay, so sleeping pills do not produce natural sleep. And in 2016, I think it was 16, the American Medical Association, the big company in America, recommended that sleeping pills should not be used as the first course of treatment for sleep. And they did some tests over with a placebo tablet and sleeping pills, and there was absolutely no difference at all between a placebo and a sleeping pill. And worse than that, people that came off sleeping tablets found themselves with really difficult sleep patterns, and they were far worse off than before taking the pills. So don't take sleeping pills. Last course of action. Again, if you want to get good sleep, make a commitment to get good sleep. Okay, if you're lying in bed at night, don't stay in bed. If you're awake, you can't get back to sleep reasonably quickly, get out of bed, because your brain is incredibly associative. It likes association, and if you haven't fallen asleep or you can't get back to sleep, get out of bed, go to a different room, put a dim light on, and just read or meditate or listen to some sleep apps or something. But then when you're sleepy, get back into your bed. And there's no time limit on that, only when you're sleepy. And that way you will relearn that your bed is a place of sleep and not a place to lay there awake and restless. You'd never go to a dinner table and wait to get hungry. So why would you go to bed and wait to get sleepy? Don't do that. Get out of bed, take some time out, relax, low light, no telephones, read, go back to bed when you're tired. Okay, so the 3 main reasons for not sleeping, which again are well documented and well recorded, and these are dead obvious. This is just smacks everybody in the face. Okay, the first one is busy lives. As we said before, we've got busier lives now, we do more. The second one is stressful lives, stop sleep. And the third one is addiction to gadgets. So those are the three documented reasons why we don't sleep in the 21st century. So let's just have a look firstly at stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety is clearly a huge problem across the world. We know that, and statistically it's increasing as our lifestyle changes and the way that the world is developing. It's increasing stress, and particularly in teenagers, which is quite a concern, really. Now, if you're not managing your anxiety, and if you haven't got something in place to control, to help you manage your anxiety, then you're really going to struggle to manage to sleep. And I'll tell you what to do to get better sleep, but if you're not managing your anxiety, that's really going to counter a lot of what's going on, because sleep is about resting your brain. And if your brain is overactive and stressed, then if that's not under control, it's going to keep you awake. Okay, so we're going to look at that a little bit more towards the end of the video, and I'll tell you what you can do about that. So, things to avoid. Okay, so caffeine. Okay, caffeine, this is decaffeinated, by the way. Caffeine is a psychoactive stimulant, and what that means is when we get really tired, we'll have a cup of coffee, it will wake me up. Okay, caffeine doesn't wake you up. What it does is it stops the signals from your brain, that are telling you are tired. It stops those signals. It doesn't wake you up. It doesn't make you feel refreshed. It just stops your brain from saying, I'm knackered and need to stop and sleep. So it's a bit like breaking your leg and carrying on running with lots of painkillers. You're not doing yourself any favours, and you probably do yourself more harm than good. And one cup of coffee, about 160 milligrams of caffeine, will take away about 20% of your deep sleep. Now, sooner or later, that's going to catch up with you, and you won't be able to fulfill some of the key biological functions that you need for sleep. About 1 in 4 people aren't overly sensitive to caffeine. So about 25% of people can drink coffee in the afternoon or later, and it won't overly have an effect on the sleep. But generally speaking, don't drink caffeine after 2 p.m. After that, leave it, because it's got a half-life of 6 to 9 hours. So caffeine is a no-go, unless you're 100% sure that caffeine doesn't have an effect on you. What a lot of people do to try and get good sleep is alcohol. And they'll have a drink, alcohol, and because the idea is that alcohol will help you sleep. Okay, that's wrong for 3 reasons. And the 3 reasons are, the first one is alcohol is a sedative. So that means instead of going to sleep, you're sedated. So when you drink in the evening, for example, before you go to sleep, you knock out the prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain, and that is sedated. That is not sleep. And it's very similar to if a boxer was to get knocked out and he was on the canvas, you wouldn't say he's asleep, you'd say he's unconscious. And that's the same sort of thing. Although you're not awake, you are not sleeping in the true sense of sleep. The second problem is that alcohol litters your brain with awakenings. So you wake up many more times in the night. And so this leaves you obviously feeling tired and unrefreshed and unrestored. And the research was done over that, the research that I read was really good, that they gave a number of people, thousands of people over a period of time in a sleep research centre. They gave them some alcohol to drink before bedtime. So they weren't drunk, but they were a bit tipsy, let's say. They were comfortable. And they put the skull caps on with the brain measurements on, and they monitored them for a full night's sleep after they were a bit tipsy. In the morning, when they woke up, they asked each individual person, how many times do you think you woke up last night? And they said average 3 to 5 times. It was actually 15 to 20 times, but they weren't aware of the fact that they were waking up because they go back to sleep again. But what that alcohol was doing was not allowing them to get to deep levels of sleep. And that's the third problem with alcohol. It blocks your rapid eye movement sleep, that sleep that is essential for us to get good, healthy physiological and neurological healing. Alcohol blocks that REM. And We know that REM is good for improving our emotional and mental stability. Well, alcohol reduces the amount of REM substantially, and rats that are deprived of REM will die as quickly as being starved. So REM is very, very important, and alcohol just doesn't help that. So you kind of a downward spiral of lack of sleep and a slow process to making yourself poorly, really. Okay, so cannabis, don't use it. I know it makes you, relaxes you, and it helps you get to sleep. And actually, the research shows that, again, cannabis will stop you getting to REM. And once you've got used to cannabis, it actually helps initially, but then you need more and more to get the same effects. And then there's the side effects of cannabis, which we know there's paranoia. There's other elements of anxieties that come into that. So complete no-no. If you think that's helping you sleep, completely wrong. It's going to make you very ill eventually. So let's have a look at some of the things that we can do to get good sleep. So obviously, noise. No noise. Limit the amount of noise that you've got in your room. The amount of light that you've got in your room. Again, I'm not going to go into that, into how light wakes you up. And temperature. Always sleep in a cool room. Your body needs about 1 degree less than normal to sleep. Your body temperature will drop, and if your room's too warm, that will keep you awake. So actually sleep in a cool room. But it's important that you prepare properly for sleep by giving yourself time to relax just before sleep, meditate or listen to an app or something conducive to rest and calm. And again, this ties in with your anxiety. It's important that you get your anxiety under control, because if you go into bed anxious, you're not going to sleep well. Although there's lots of things that you can do to reduce that anxiety. Okay, so this is the biggest factor, and this is a real problem, particularly with younger people, teenagers, and probably later than that now, maybe into 20s and 30s, and adults are adopting this habit as well. Okay, so mobile phones, iPads and digital devices, they are the biggest cause of lack of sleep in the Western society. And this is the reasons why. Firstly, they distract you and they stop you from wanting to sleep, because we're engaging our brain into an activity that requires attention. That makes sense. I'm trying to sleep, why would I want to engage my brain? Secondly, the light that is emitted from a mobile phone, the blue and rich light, is daylight basically. It's the same light that wakes us up in the morning when we naturally wake up. It's the daylight, the blue light that helps our brain wake up. So every time you look at a device with a blue light, a mobile phone or an iPad, you're flooding your brain with blue light and your brain is going to be woken up. And really good research shows that people that don't go to bed with an iPad, that fall asleep reading a book, compared to the ones that will fall asleep using an iPad, can get up to 3 hours better sleep by not having that blue light. And also the blue light it reduces the REM time. Again, we've just said how important REM is. So technology is really, really good. We all love technology, but it absolutely increases your stress and anxiety. First thing we do in the morning, we pick our phones up, our brains are invaded by a tsunami of information that kicks us into anxiety. It wakes us up with all the wrong levels of negativity than what we need, and it's not good. That's called anticipatory anxiety. Every time our phone bleeps or buzzes or whatever it does, we think there's something negative, because a lot of the information is negative, and we go into fight or flight. That keeps us awake and reduces our sleep. It lightens our sleep and it prevents us from accessing a deep level. So if you're going to take anything away from this video, then this is what I'd say for you to do. And if you don't do this and you're not getting good sleep, then I really have no sympathy for you whatsoever. Because I said before, lack of sleep is something that we've created over the last 50, 60 years by our culture. It's our fault. So if you pick your phone up an hour before you go to sleep, and this is what I'm saying, no mobile phone, no digital device, no television, 1 hour before you go to sleep, 0, okay, and 30 minutes after waking up in the morning, that will help you substantially sleep better. Now, if you're going to go to bed with your mobile phone, and I think the statistic I read was, I think 70% of teenagers fall asleep with the mobile phone in the hand. That's an increase, and also a 70% increase in depression in teenagers since 2012. I think there's a correlation there somewhere, but don't start me off on that one. Don't take your mobile phone to bed. Don't look at it an hour before sleep. People say, oh, it's my alarm clock. Buy an alarm clock. I need it in the room in case I get an emergency call. Put it at the far side of the room. Don't pick it up. Don't look at it. Now, I know that 99.9% of people who know that information will still do that because they're addicted. Okay, you're addicted. Guess what? You're sacrificing your sleep that affects your mental health, your physiological, and how you perform tomorrow at work or in your life or with your family. So there's a consequence. That's the key point of this message. Start treating yourself like somebody you actually care about. Put your mobile phone away. That's the important key. So I hope that's useful. I hate bleating on about sleep, and because it's just so important, but I kind of give this message out an awful lot because people just don't listen to it, and I don't know why. But that's up to you. You know what those facts are. There's loads of information on getting good sleep on the internet. There's YouTube videos. There's some really good sleep research. Go and find out for yourself. But don't let it be conscious knowledge just in your brain. Actually act on it and treat yourself like you want to have a good night's sleep and create those habits for a lifetime. Okay, so if you've got any questions about sleep or stress, anxiety, then I want you to send those questions to me. If you need help with stress or anxiety, if you're worried about anything to do with the way that your life is with stress and anxiety, then please message me. Click on the link. We can arrange to have a chat. We can put something in place for you. But as I said before, your stress and anxiety has to be under control before you get good sleep. And you can do that with sleep meditation. You can do that with apps. You can reduce all that. But if you think that's a problem, then please contact me and we'll have a chat and hopefully find a way forward for you. So I hope this is useful. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give me some thumbs up. Give me some thumbs down. Give me some comments, whatever you choose to do. And I will see you on the next Facebook Live tomorrow, where hopefully I won't be bleating on about sleep again. But I do have questions for me from sleep, which is why I do these videos. So keep the questions coming. Thank you for your time. Hopefully I shall see you in the not too distant future.